they know that if they can get you to talk for long enough, eventually you're going to slip up somehow. And they're going to get something from one of these different categories that they can use to get you in trouble. So it's much safer, even if you think that you've done nothing wrong, to just say, I'm going to remain silent. Because the conversation that never happens can't get you in trouble. And similarly, even if you think that you have nothing to hide, it's much safer to just say, I don't consent to any searches. Because if a search doesn't happen, then none of those things that I was talking about are even going to come up. You're not going to have to worry about them. The reality is, your constitutional rights are protected. You can't be punished for using them. If you could, they wouldn't be your rights, if you think about it. So, for example, if a cop stops you and wants you to answer questions, and you exercise your right to remain silent, the cop then can't take further action against you. The cop can't say, oh, well, if you won't answer my questions, then I'm going to detain you, or then I'm going to search your bag. It's not allowed. Similarly, if you won't allow them to search your vehicle, they can't arrest you for doing that. They can't say, if you won't let me search, you're going to jail.
And if they do, which sometimes they actually do, you have a lawsuit.
Right. It would be illegal for them to do that. And in fact, your rights are so strongly protected that if evidence is brought against you in court that's been obtained illegally, right? So if you said that you don't consent to a search and they searched anyway, that evidence is called, what, fruit of the poisonous tree? Which means that it's inadmissible in court. And similarly, the cops can't even bring up the fact that you've asserted your rights when they make their case against you in court.
So if I say I refuse a search now and the police search my car anyway, now what proof will I have to say I didn't say it was okay?
Yeah. That's a good question. That's why we recommend that when you say you refuse a search, you say it so that witnesses around can hear.
Okay, nobody's there.
Right. Then you're in a tough situation. And we'll talk about how Copwatch relates to that, like filming the police to gather evidence. We'll talk about that at the end of the training, but that's a very good point. I'm not going to lie to you. If you assert your rights, it may make the cops angry at you. It may make them actually angry, or they may pretend to be angry, because cops are trained in how to manipulate people. And one of the ways that they do that is they pretend like they're angry. They pretend like they're this close to just beating the shit out of you. Sometimes they are, it's true. But they may not necessarily act angry either. They may act super friendly. They may act totally bureaucratic. They may act insistent. They may act polite. They may act like they're your best buddy and they're trying to help you out. They may also act angry. And it's understandable that when you get stopped by the cops, if you're on the street, if you're driving your car, if you're in your house, you want to get through the interaction quickly. Nobody wants to have like this big fuss with the police, especially if your mind's on something else. You just don't want to bother. But the problem is that when you cooperate with the police like that, when you waive your rights, you are giving up your power to the police. And you're hoping that they're going to take pity on you. You're giving them all the power that they need to abuse you, to violate your rights, and possibly to arrest you. And you're hoping that by doing that, you've gained enough of their favor that they're going to decide not to do anything to you. And sometimes that works. Especially it works if you maybe look like you got some money, or you have the right color skin, or you're particularly attractive. There's like different people have different experiences. But the bottom line is, there are cops out there who, for whatever reason, have decided before they even start talking to you that you're going down. And that may be because they don't like the look of you. That may be because they don't like the political ideals that you stand for. It may be because they have a quota and they just need to make a certain number of arrests, right? Or it may be because they have some serious anger issues and they want to take it out on somebody. There's no like special identifier for them. There's no way to know which cop is the one who's going to smile and send you on your way when you cooperate, and which cop is going to abuse everything that you give them to build a case against you, whether you did anything wrong or not, and put you in jail. So we have no choice but to assume that every cop who approaches us is this person who constitutes a very serious threat against our freedom, who could potentially abuse our rights very badly. Like when you look at it that way, I think it becomes clear that it's not a question of do I want to deal with an angry authority figure or do I want to get through this thing quickly and smoothly. It's a question of do I want to deal with this person who's going to be grumpy and yell at me, or do I want to put myself in a situation where I may end up arrested and in jail for the night, or for the next week, or for the next 10 years, because these are things that happen to people who waive their rights. And when you see the situation that way, I think it becomes much more obvious which is the safer option. What if I'm trying to assert my rights, but I'm alone and there's nobody to know that I refuse to search or something like that? So one of the strategies that we use, we're all members of Copwatch, and in addition to trying to teach people about their rights, we film the police when they're interacting with the public to make sure that they have to respect these rights. Because as we know, cops violate people's rights all the time. They beat people up, they kill people, and sometimes they get away with it. Often they get away with it. So what we do basically is anytime cops are interacting with the public, we film everything the cops are doing. So that way, hopefully, if you are being pulled over, there's a video record of what happened, what you said, and what the cops tried to do. In addition to us doing that, we're trying to spread that as a practice to everybody, so that everybody both knows what their rights are in terms of filming the cops, and is prepared to do it, both for themselves and for other people that they see getting hassled by the cops. We actually have a whole other training, as Earthworm talked about at the beginning, that builds on this one, builds on what your basic rights are, and teaches you how to film the police in a way that's safe, that's legal, and that's effective at disrupting their ability to violate people's rights.
You know, you have kind of the highlights up there. Can you do that of your second speech kind of now? I think that might be helpful.
Well,
don't talk to the cops.
Don't talk to the cops. The short story is you have absolutely...
how do you, because I have a phone, that can record
right.
it.
The cliff notes, the most important thing is you have absolutely the right to film the police in the U.S. You have the right to film any person in public, including the police, and they cannot order you to stop. In particular, in Atlanta, the police department have policies which prevent them from interfering with your right. Now, that doesn't mean that they won't beat the crap out of you for trying to film them. It just means that would be illegal.
If you do run into that situation where a cop has, not paid attention to your not consenting, and you end up in court, that's going to be a matter of fact that's going to go to the jury. And so if you can bring up your friend, and your friend goes, yeah, this guy every day, he reminds me not to consent to searches. If he has a t-shirt that says, I don't consent to searches, the jury's going to hear that. And they're going to go, oh, maybe these officers are lying when they say he didn't consent to the searches. This guy sounds like he's a guy who knows his rights. If you can say, hey, I went to this Know Your Rights workshop, on this, I've talked to these people, that's all going to help you in the eyes of the jury.
So you're asking the judge really just let that money go and he get ready to make it?
You guys have other questions,
Anecdotes,
comments?
stories?
Yeah, just emphasize the need to film. I almost wanted to clap after every skit. I thought they were on point and the info was really good. But the filming, I think, is very key. So I would encourage everybody to film all your interactions with police employees.
When I am being pulled over by the police or stopped by the police, I run the audio recorder on my phone and I don't tell them that it's running, just because I have always felt that if I'm trying to conduct myself with them and I'm filming them, camera in their face, that they could potentially just grab the camera and turn it off and destroy the evidence or whatever. Another way to get around that would be using a live stream app that puts the video on a server so that they can't confiscate your camera and destroy it. And even informing them, I am videotaping you and it's streaming to a server, you can't, whatever. I don't know how anybody feels about that.
I think don't you have to let the officer know that you're recording them?
Georgia,
It's a state law, it's a state by state bill.
Yeah, by state.
It's by state, but no time in any state that somebody's been arrested for doing that, like the wiretapping, has that actually held up. And there have been some pretty high, not the Supreme Court, but pretty high courts that have been yeah, that's not, you're allowed to film the cops.
While it's your right, there are a lot of risks and benefits associated with it. So it's something we encourage people to learn more about. Come to our training, do more research online, check out the Copwatch website. Find out about it before you just jump in and start filming cops.
I just do audio and I have it streamed to a server, so they never have to know that I'm doing it. And should they violate my rights in that stop, I then know that I have an account online where this audio is, and I can access it later for my lawyer or court or whatever. So.
Thank you, guys.